Hello, my name is Jonathan Bailey, and we're going to be discussing fundamental cybersecurity technologies currently being used by enterprises. The overview is we'll be discussing network security, endpoint security, data security, identity and access management, and cloud security. For network security, firewalls are generally the best thing to put in place to protect the edge of a network. So when I say edge, it means that when you go out to the internet, or when people are trying to get into your network, the firewall is usually what stops them. And it can use either rules, it can use more heuristic things in place that kind of like monitor things based on smaller matches, and it does more of an analysis on what's coming through versus just a signature. But firewalls are pretty awesome because it keeps people from the internet from getting in as long as the firewall is patched and it's relatively new. It's not like a 20-year-old firewall. It has to be within the age of the device. And also you can set it up to allow it so it doesn't allow people to go to sites using things like DLP and web filtering to keep people from getting to where they shouldn't be going. Intrusion detection and prevention systems are another item. They allow you to either detect and notify people of things on the network that don't look right, or it can also block it. Now, those systems are nice to have, but they can also produce a lot of false positives. So when those things are put in place, there is a period of time to where you have to go through and weed those out. Network segmentation is also pretty good. You can actually segment off departments away from each other, keep people off of the server network. You can also block the Wi-Fi away from the normal LAN, and any kind of segmentation you want to do within the network. The nice thing about that is if you set up an internal firewall, you can then block those things as well. And you can do that with a normal firewall if it's actually a decent brand and model. That's built in too, so you can set up the VLANs on that and then block people from going to where they shouldn't be going. VPNs allow you to provide access into the network. Again, that's something that can be provided on a firewall if you get a nice model. That allows you to let people in remotely, but only with either like using a client or a shared key, or you can also do SSL VPN too through the web. And then wireless security. One of the best things about doing wireless security is if you do the strongest that's out there. And by the strongest, I mean based on what the current security strength is. Every time they come out with a new one, it's always best to have the newest. So that way you can make sure that when people crack the old stuff, it's just not sitting there being vulnerable to people on the network. I like to split up the wireless. So I try to do one for the employees and one for the public. The public, all they have access to is the internet. Places I've worked at before, we actually had a wireless network that was completely off the network for guests. This was to keep them from getting to anything locally by having it completely physically separated. If you have the money, that's an option. If you have the ability and the tools, then you can put them together, but you just have to make sure that it is segmented off. Otherwise, people will be trying to do crazy stuff on your network. And then for endpoint security, we have the age-old antivirus. Though that's like ESET, Norton, Trend Micro. There's a whole bunch of them out there. They are the basic virus and malware detection tools. Some provide ransomware capabilities. But if you want to step up to what they call an EDR, EDRs also allow you to use like AI within the tools themselves to help find those like beyond using signatures to also find things that are going on that shouldn't be and stop them. For data security, we have encryption, which is important, but based on encrypting your data, you first of all have to know where the data is, map it out, and then encrypt those sources so you can make sure that when people are going to those sources, they can't get to the data, but that also includes access as well. If somebody shouldn't have access to HR's files, they shouldn't be able to get into them in the first place, regardless of whether the data is encrypted or not. So that's kind of a key thing. And also, as far as encryption, there's data at rest, and that's mainly what I was talking about first, data in transit, and then data in use. So the data in transit is making sure that you use the right protocols, SSL and TLS. And then data in use is to make sure that the VM and the applications are securing that data when it's properly in use. Data loss prevention is important, and like I said, a lot of firewalls have DLPs built into them. You can run other ones as well, but the nice thing about a DLP is it can help even with internal threats, taking data that they shouldn't have or forwarding it to people that shouldn't have it. Identity and access management. In this one, we look at authentication. And authentication is mainly making sure that people can log in to get access to what they need to have access to. I'm going to skip over and do authorization first, because authorization is more of, I can get to my data, but am I authorized to get to other things that I should have access to, or I shouldn't have access to? And as long as I can get to what I need to, and I can't get to other stuff that's important or that is not my job, then that's why you would have the authorization part of it as well. MFA is another tool in the toolkit that not only lets you put in your password, or you put in like basically something that you know. MFA is something you have. So MFA is another piece that is usually random. It's either a physical token that has a rotating number on it. It could be like a Microsoft app that allows you to go in and put in a number from the Microsoft site that you see on the screen, and it authenticates you. It's just another piece of logging in, another step that lets you get in. But by doing that, you make sure that the data is safe, because most of the time people don't have an exact copy of your app or that hardware token. And for cloud security, we want to make sure that the data in the cloud is set to be encrypted. That's important because most of the cloud environment is secure, but the parts that aren't secure, you need to make sure that they are encrypted whenever you have the chance to make sure that to do so. You also got to make sure that the user access permissions are correct. You can do better with assigning roles. So the roles can be the permissions as well, especially like in things like AWS, where you can set up a role to have specific rights to certain things. Even like with one project I'm working on now, if you have a bucket, let's say, of data, we had to assign that bucket rights to pull over into another program outside of AWS. So to do that, we had to set up a role just for that access, and it was assigned to an S3 bucket. So that S3 bucket, all it could do was get to that bucket, read and pull the data over, and that's it. So for a user, you might have users that actually all their job is to upload a file to a location. That's all they need. You give them rights to upload it. Somebody else may need to, a program may need to pull it over, so you give it rights to list and read it. And that's it. So you set those roles up and then attach those roles to users, and that would give them permissions to what they need access to. You can set that up for billing. You can set that up for just about anything in any kind of cloud application to make sure that the rights are there for them to actually do what they need to do. And that's it. Thank you.